Our exciting Pacific West Conference. The PacWest is made up of NCAA Division II universities from Arizona and Utah to California and Hawaii. It's the most beautiful and diverse athletic conference in the entire NCAA. This is Commissioner Bob Hogue, inviting you to join our outstanding coaches, student athletes, and administrators as we talk about the great excitement in the PacWest. Now here's Assistant Commissioner Tom Camillo, live from our studios in Santan, Arizona.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is PacWest Radio, Tom Camillo, Joe Carrero, and we are on the countdown. 7 days, 1 week from today, and a day and about an hour and a half away from the inaugural Pacific West Conference men's and women's basketball tournaments. Next Thursday, Azusa Pacific University will be hosting It's two different tournaments, the men's and the women. It'll feature 6 teams each, so a total of 12 teams. We do know some of the teams we know 11 of the 12 teams have been confirmed, and then this Saturday we'll finish up the last one. But we're going to have Gary Pine on here in a minute. He's the Director of Athletics at Azusa Pacific University. He's been at Azusa in a number of roles, including the Sports Information Director and Associate AD for the past 28 years. He has been with Azusa Pacific University, and Azusa Pacific has graciously volunteered to host the inaugural tournaments at the Felix Event Center on their campus. And the tournament will take place starting next Thursday at 12:30 Pacific time. The women's games will get started at 12:30 and 3, and then at 5:30 and 8, the men on that Thursday night. Those will be the 3, 6, and 4, 5 seeds playing. The 1 and 2 seeds get byes. And then the semifinals will take place Friday with the women again during the day, the men Friday night, and then Saturday the women's championships 4:30 Pacific time, followed by the championship game, the men's championship game at 7:30 on Saturday night. And it's going to be really exciting. Next year, they'll flip it. The men will play first, and the women will go second. But it's going to be a really exciting time, and everybody's getting geared up for it. 11 of the 12 teams have clinched. The one that hasn't clinched yet is the 6th seed for the men's tournament, and right now it's between Hawaii Pacific and Academy of Art. Hawaii Pacific needs to beat Chaminade and hope Academy of Art loses to Dominican, and then HPU will get the berth. If Academy of Art wins or HPU loses, then Academy of Art will get the berth. And joining us now, we're going to join us in here in a few minutes, is Gary Pine, the athletic director from Azusa Pacific. And for the women, the 6 teams in the women that have clinched, BYU Hawaii is the 6th seed. Hawaii Hilo is the 5th seed. Dixie State and Academy of Art are battling for the 3rd and 4th seeds. They're locked into playoff spots. They'll either be 3rd or 4th, depending on what happens games this weekend. And then Hawaii Pacific and Grand Canyon are the 1 and 2 seeds. And deciding who will be 1 and 2 again will take place this weekend. And then joining us is Gary Pine, the Director of Athletics at Azusa Pacific University. Gary, welcome to PacWest Radio.
Tom, it's great to be on.
Gary, let's talk. Obviously, it's a week away. It's been a long time planning for the PacWest Men's and Women's Basketball Championship tournaments. Azusa Pacific University stepped up to host the tournament. Can you kind of give us a sense of what the excitement that's building with the opportunity for you guys to host this event?
You know, we love tournaments at Azusa Pacific. We really do. I don't say that just as a PR line, but we have a lot of fun with tournaments here. And it'll be interesting because I think this may be the first tournament we've ever hosted in which we're not involved. But it's added a level of excitement because we're excited. We're going to have, it looks like, 7, 8, maybe 9 different schools on campus here next week. And we're excited to have them here. We really want to put our best foot forward. We know for a lot of these teams, it'll be their first time on our campus because they may not be in our pod and have traveled here this year. And so we're excited they're going to be here, see our facility. We're very proud of our facility, proud of our campus and students that go here. And so we're excited to have the PacWest coming here and an opportunity for Azusa Pacific to show off and for a chance to, this is going to be the standard bearer. It's the first tournament. and the rest of the tournaments are going to be measured by what we do here. So we feel a little bit of pressure, but we welcome that pressure and are excited for it.
Let's talk a little bit about, you said that it's going to be a tournament that you're not involved with, and can you explain to the listeners that Azusa Pacific is not eligible for the tournament this year, along with Holy Names, Point Loma, Fresno Pacific, and California Baptist? Kind of explain what the thinking was and how that transpired.
Well, those 5 schools you just mentioned are all in the NCAA membership transition process, anywhere in that 3-year process. Holy Names is in its first year, Fresno Pacific, Azusa Pacific, and Point Loma are in year 2, and Cal Baptist is in its 3rd and final year of that transition. And anyone who's in the transition is unable for NCAA postseason play. The great thing about the PacWest and the thing that excited us in terms of our transition is the PacWest came and offered an invitation to join the conference right out of the gate. Commissioner Bob Hogue and the leadership of the conference were looking for ways to expand and found us to be viable members when the NCAA accepted us. And so we've come in, but we're not eligible. And that really played into the hands of this first tournament. We were looking for a place that would be neutral and would be cost efficient for the conference. And so we thought Southern California, it's fairly easy to fly into Southern California or even to drive here. And we had a facility that could host the teams just from a locker room standpoint, from a concession standpoint, from a media press standpoint. We just have a facility that can host. And so it was almost a natural. It was almost a, boy, we didn't really have to think about this. Azusa Pacific should host it this year. And we're scheduled to go to Point Loma and next year in beautiful San Diego along the ocean. So it just made sense. It will be a neutral site, but yet it's one of our conference members who has some developing relationships with the rest of the conference that can help pull the tournament together. And it was really a quick decision by the athletic directors when we said, let's have it at Azusa Pacific the first year and Point Loma the second year.
Do you think it is kind of unique of what's happening to have this year and then at Point Loma next year, to have 2 schools that won't be eligible to play in the tournament to be the host, but it really helps the schools, you want to say, not just the marketing of it, but the sort of the credibility of the new schools coming in. Not that you lacked credibility, but people that weren't familiar with you guys at the NAI level are now seeing that, hey, first year, they're not playing, but they're stepping up to host a major Division II tournament.
Yeah, and that is very true, Tom. And I think also, let's be honest, rivalries are about relationships. And when you talk about the big rivalries, Ohio State, Michigan, Duke, North Carolina, they know each other. And there's relationships, whether they want to freely admit there's healthy relationships, but there's relationships. And that's one of the things I think for all of the new schools that are coming into the PacWest, we're developing relationships. We're getting to know each other. And so the nice thing about having these, again, 7, 8 different schools that are coming onto campus next week is our fans, our people will get to know who Dominican is, who Hawaii Pacific is, who Grand Canyon is, and the rest of the schools in terms of the personnel and the people. And you develop relationships, and now that you develop, hopefully, healthy rivalries. So it's a great educational tool for us as a university as well to get to know our brethren and sisters in the PacWest.
Let's talk. Let's shift the focus a little bit to the facility itself. If you look on the website, there's some pictures of the Felix Event Center, and there's a really neat nighttime shot where it's all lit up that we've been using. What is the facility like, and what will people kind of experience coming into that venue?
Well, let me give you a little background on it. It opened in December of 2000, so it's just a little over a dozen years old. But it seats 3,500 people. When we open up all of our seating, we'll probably for the tournament have about seating capacity of 2,500, which I think will be certainly comfortable. We have fixed seating up high. We have bleacher seating down on the floor so that students can stand and get loud and pound the wood and make the noise. It'll have seating in a circular all around the facility. The floor is a very nice floor, fairly new floor when I say that, because we actually, after the building was constructed and we played on it for a few years, we put down a new and different floor. The baskets that we use were baskets that were in last year's NCAA Division I regionals, played at the pond in Anaheim.
Wow.
We bought those baskets after that tournament was over with, and so they are, I believe it's Spalding NCAA-approved baskets that have already been through an NCAA tournament. And the fans are close to the floor, and yet it's comfortable to get in and out and to make access to your seats. There's multiple places to enter in. There's concessions on the floor, concessions up on the mezzanine level, and there's a walkway around the floor in which you can stand up and walk around and see the whole floor from a 360 perspective. So I think it'll be pleasurable for those who come and take part in the games.
It sounds like it's just a really accommodating facility for fans.
Well, you know, when it was built for more than just sporting events. We have seminars, we have concerts, we have large events in here, and that was one of the goals of the architects, was to make it a good venue for viewing anything. And it works perfectly into sporting events. There really isn't a bad seat in this place, and you're not too far from the floor. And you'll probably be able to hear the coaches and their instructions, and the coaches and the players will certainly be able to hear the fans and their positive cheering that they will be embracing during the games.
If you look at the Azusa Pacific basketball programs, or when you're playing basketball in there, is the facility intimidating when you're the home team and other schools are coming in?
Well, our arch rival, Biola University, would say yes, it's intimidating. They see a sea of black. We've had crowds up to just about 3,000 in there when we have played Biola. And,
wow.
And you get a sea of black. We have a blackout section is what we call it, and everyone wears their black T-shirts. And, yeah, it can be intimidating because the fans are right on top of you. They have access to the floor, and but it makes for a great, loud atmosphere. And you get the drama, you get the intensity, and you just, as a spectator, you can feel it.
Let's talk a little bit about the tournament itself, and one of the things that Azusa Pacific has been doing, the PacWest has been involved with it as well, is sort of spearheading this drive to bring in youth groups, sports teams, to come to the games at no charge. There's been a sense that Azusa Pacific is really good with its local community in doing that kind of stuff. Talk a little bit about that and the relationship you have with the community.
Yeah, it's interesting. Many, many years ago, right after the Felix Event Center was built, we realized it was right on the border of the cities of Glendora and the city of Azusa. And those two cities, from a social economic standpoint, could not be more different or polar opposites than what they are. And so we've always said, let's use this facility to bridge these two cities. Because as someone said, there's almost not just a borderline, there's a wall between the two cities because they're just very different. They're both great communities, great cultures. They just don't mix very frequently. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to mix them. And we're using the PacWest tournament. We have we're expecting anywhere to 300 to 400 youth basketball players from both the cities of Glendora and Azusa to attend the 12:30 and the 3 o'clock games. Those will be difficult games for adults to get to because the time and the work schedules of people on Thursdays and Fridays. And so because schools are in session and we've seen this done at other tournaments before, we have branched out into both cities and their youth programs, particularly youth basketball programs, but we also, I think, reached out into some youth cheerleaders to come and take in. We see it as an opportunity for these children to be on a college campus also and to begin to think about college. One of our goals in our athletic program and certainly here at the university is what we call first-generation college students. We know that if you don't grow up in the environment of your parents having gone to college, it may not likely that you would go. And so we have really made an effort to try to reach out to what we call first-generation students. And this is one of those steps is to get 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids to begin thinking about college, get them onto a college campus, get them comfortable, and, hey, let's make it fun. Why don't we go see a basketball game? And You can hoot and holler and yell and pick a favorite team and get up close and personal with the players and get to know them and shake their hands and get some autographs and see good basketball and inspire them in their basketball playing, but also inspire them to think about college and where to go and what's a good place to continue your studies. So we see it from that standpoint too. So we'll have quite a few youth here in the afternoons on Thursday and Friday.
We're talking with Gary Pine, the Director of Athletics at Azusa Pacific University. Azusa Pacific is hosting the inaugural PacWest Men's and Women's Basketball Championships at the Felix Events Center. Gary, what is the allure of basketball brackets and tournaments like this? Why is it such an appeal to people?
You know, I don't know, but I'll give you my personal thing. I grew up in Michigan, so I am a Michigan Wolverine fan. And I watched last night as Penn State, 0-14 in the Big Ten, beat my number 4 ranked Wolverines and thought, here we go, it's March. Anything can happen. And I think that, in all honesty, I think that's a little bit of the element of it, is that anything can happen. And, you know, Butler and George Mason and Villanova, some schools that just captured the country's imagination in a Division I tournament. Well, we're just like that with Division II or Division III. We want a school to capture our imagination that maybe isn't necessarily our school, but someone else, that Cinderella story, that underdog story. We like that. We as a country, we seem to resonate with that. And it's so unpredictable what was happening in the tournament. Plus, it's that one-and-done pressure, and where every possession matters. And every second that ticks off that clock matters. There's just a sense of urgency and intensity to the games that is extremely attractive to us, knowing, to use that phrase, it's do or die. And so, and someone gets to move on, and will they get to move on again, and will they get to move on? That's all part of that story that unfolds in March, and the unpredictability of it is, I think, the attractiveness of it.
If you look at, and let's talk about the men's bracket for a minute. You look at the regional rankings that are out there now, and Grand Canyon and Dixie State are in pretty good position. Chaminade's there, around that sort of that 7th seed of the top 8 in the region that get to go. But then you look at you don't want to lose in the tournament, especially a school like Chaminade, because then you end up on the bubble. But then you go down to sort of the bottom, and you look at Saturday night, where Hawaii Pacific and Academy of Art are basically, now this is their bracket game to start. And now when one of them gets in as the 6th seed, they have that sort of one-and-done feel from Saturday night. And isn't that where you start seeing those upsets? Because now they're the 6th seed playing a 3 seed. And all of a sudden, they have to win where the other one might not, and that just builds the whole interest and the intrigue.
It sure does. It adds to that whole sense of urgency and intensity. I will say this. I'm going to have a side note here. Having just gotten back from Hawaii, if Chaminade doesn't make the regional tournament, I'll be disappointed and upset, because Chaminade is a very good team, and along with Dixie State and Grand Canyon, I think Chaminade needs to be there. And you're right, as you look at Academy of Art or Dominican, and as they know they have to play their way in, this is a great opportunity for them. And it's a preparation, if they are to maneuver their way through the PacWest tournament, it is going to prepare them for the regional tournament the following week, because they will have already been through it. So you can see this as certainly not exhibition games, but they're preparation games for the regional tournament. And someone who gets hot in a conference tournament, that just keeps rolling, and that confidence carries into a regional tournament. So it could be a springboard for them to even bigger and better things.
When I'm glad you mentioned that about Chaminade and looking at the way that the tournament's set up, it must be exciting for Azusa Pacific to not only host the inaugural tournaments, but to kind of look at the field the way it's played out. Where Saturday night, when we have these final games, and here's a school, Dixie State, that is unbeaten against Grand Canyon and Chaminade, and in turn, if they were to lose Saturday night and Chaminade and Grand Canyon win, suddenly Dixie drops to 3rd, and they have to play in that first round. And wow, now you have this tournament that's really, people are starting to look at saying, this could be really an amazing event.
Yeah. Again, we go back to that unpredictability, and I really do think there is not much separating our top three teams, particularly on the men's side, between Grand Canyon, Dixie State, and Chaminade. And now that we're on a neutral site, it really opens up the opportunities for all three of them to do well, or any one of those three to do well. And yep, you play yourself into better position. You can play yourself out of a strong position you're already in, and that's the risk reward of a tournament like that. And it adds a little bit to the ecstasy of victory and the sadness of defeat and all of this, that it will have ramifications the following week in terms of the regional tournament. That's, as a spectator, that's fun. I know for our players too. Our players will still be playing in some other postseason play that's not associated with NCAA, but our players will be around, and I think it'll be fun for them to see the elite of the PacWest together and understand what it takes to win this conference and what kind of players you have, what style you play wins, and that'll be fun, a learning experience for them as well as we become more acquainted with the Pacific West Tournament.
There's probably a lot of coaches on the men's side breathing a sigh of relief, because two of the scariest teams right now could be BYU, Hawaii, and Dominican, and they're going to square off against each other in that first round. Talk about, in terms of the tournament. You guys have hosted tournaments. You said you love them. What are some of the challenges that you face that people may not even be aware of when you're putting on an event like this?
Sure. Lots of times it's communication. It's getting people in and out of the arena in a safe and orderly manner, getting them to the proper seats. It's getting teams into the right locker rooms and respecting their privacy of communication in those situations. It's officials, getting the officials in and out and into their locker rooms. You have a lot of people coming and going. It's a transient audience for about 10 hours during that day, and you want to service them, all of them. Few, if any, stay for all 10 of those hours, but we do. Those who host the tournament, we're there, and so a lot of it is just execution of moving people in and out and putting them into places where they are most comfortable and where they want to be. It's supplying the needs of the team so that they are relaxed and comfortable, so they can put all their focus to what's going on out on the court, not where do I park my vehicle, how do I get to the locker room, where's the training room, will there be towels available, are you going to offer water, what side of the bench do we sit on? You want to take all of those questions out of their mind so that when they come into the arena for the first time for a practice or shoot-around on Wednesday, all questions are answered, and when they arrive for the game, it's as natural almost as it being at home. Because really, we want them to play relaxed and to their best and not having to stress or worry about things that have to be taken care of off the court. And so it's just a matter of answering their questions and making sure they're taken care of long before they get here.
How many people does it take to manage something like this? Take away the conference personnel, but from Azusa Pacific,
sure.
How many people are you looking at roughly?
Well, we had a tournament meeting back on Monday, and we had about a dozen people sitting around the table, and that didn't include the assistants and the student help that we're going to be having, our ushers. I would guess we're going to be employing close to about 50 people, maybe a little bit more than that during the tournament. When you're talking about statisticians and scoreboard operators, ushers, ticket takers, equipment people, floor maintenance people, it's going to be close to 50 people that are going to be working for this tournament over the course of the 3 days.
As an athletic director, what's the biggest thing you worry about that could go wrong? Is it power outage like the Super Bowl?
Yep.
Or is that probably the biggest thing?
The biggest worry would be that some sort of event that would keep the games from taking place. Excuse me, I'm battling a little bit of a cold here, but yeah, if something were to transpire that we could not get the games off and determine a conference champion, that would be my greatest concern. I think up to this point, we, along with Bob Hogan, we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's, and we're ready to go. We've communicated to all the personnel when to be here, where to be, and what to do. We're just waiting for those last two teams, the last team on the women's side, last team on the men's side, to determine who the 16 fields are on both sides. So, as I've always said, the biggest battle is getting the ball rolling. Once the ball rolls, man, it takes off and goes and does on its own. So anything that would stop that ball from rolling, like a power outage or some sort of structure failure, that would be an issue. We're even prepared if a backboard were to crack or break, we're ready. We got backup ones, but it is more of a power thing or a structural issue that would keep us from playing the games. That would be a worry, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sweating that one because I think we're in good shape for that.
Is there anything that, in your experience, and you've been involved with college athletics a long time, and I always say, I've been doing it for over 20 years, there's always something that pops up, you go, wow, I never thought of that or never saw that before. Is there anything that ever stands out during any of those events that kind of stands out?
You're leading me right into something that just happened.
You know what? I honestly wasn't thinking about that, but that's a really good point. I forgot about that.
We just had an experience last Saturday night, and I wrote an email Saturday night to some people and said our basketball game was rained out. And they wrote, rained out? What are you talking about? But yeah, I had an experience last week. In fact, as we were flying back from Hawaii on Sunday, I turned to our men's basketball coach, Justin Leslie, and said, I've had a couple experiences just for 1 week in Hawaii that I've never experienced in my 33 years in college athletics. But yeah, our men's and women's doubleheader with Hawaii Hilo was rained out because they just had a lot of rain in Hilo for the week leading into the games, and the way a lot of the buildings are constructed there in Hawaii, they have open air access into large buildings, which makes perfect sense for the climate of Hawaii. But because they'd had so much rain and because of the temperatures, the humidity was extremely high, and there was just a film, a very slight film on of water on the floor that prevented us from being able to play the games. We got less than 8 minutes into the women's games, and some of our players were sliding all over the floor, and the risk of injury was high. In fact, we did have two young ladies get hurt, and just a little less than 8 minutes into the game, we decided to cancel the women's game, wait to see if conditions might change for the men's game, waited about 45 minutes to an hour and realized they weren't going to change, and so we canceled the men's game as well. So that is certainly one of the most unique experiences I've ever had. I'm not worried about humidity and water on the floor in Azusa. I might be concerned about earthquakes. I hope we don't have an earthquake here next week. But that's something that was pretty unique.
You know, it's funny. As you said that, I actually was not leading you down that path. I totally forgot about that because we were on the phone Saturday night with that. And I'll say my unique experience was the very first time that there was a tsunami warning in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And getting that. Now, we've had that happen in basketball, I think, 3 times during the last maybe 2 years, 2.5 years. So it's but you plan for what you can, and the tournament at Azusa Pacific with the Pacific West Conference, Gary, it's going to be a great time.
Looking forward to it, Tom. Looking forward to you and you being here along with the rest of the PacWest staff and all the fans of the Pacific West Conference. We're looking forward to hosting, and we think it's going to be an exciting time.
If people want to purchase tickets in advance, they can go to thepacwest.com. Just click on the icon that's on there, and it'll take them right to the Azusa Pacific website, and they can purchase their tickets in advance or at the door. Gary, thanks so much. We'll see you Wednesday.
Very good. Thanks, Tom.
All right, Gary Pine, the athletic director at Azusa Pacific University, and March 7th, 8th, and 9th next week, the Pacific West Conference will host its tournaments. So for men's and women's basketball. So, and Joe is playing the appropriate song.
That's right.
And so we'll crown a champion next week. For Joe Kerr, I'm Tom D. Camillo. Enjoy Queen, and we'll talk to you next week on PacWest Radio.
Thank you all for tuning in.